Hi and welcome back to another video of jPlay. I am Marcus and today I will give you a short preview over the upcoming campaign of Good Cop, Bad Cop, the Undercover expansion here. Quite a while ago I already did a preview of the base game, which is simply Good Cop, Bad Cop here. In the meantime there was the very first expansion, it's Bombers and Traitors. And yeah, as you can see here, I will have a closer look on the second expansion, Undercover, which of course can be mixed and matched with the base game and or Bombers and Traitors expansion. The very first prototype I received of Good Cop, Bad Cop looked like this. This is pretty much the prototype I received nearly 2 years ago. And this is a new prototype I received for Undercover. And the cool thing about this one is the prototype includes everything from the base game I needed to have in order to play Undercover. Some of the artwork you might see in this preview are still, let's say, placeholder artwork. So Brian Hank, the designer, more or less let me know everything that you see that looks like black and white is more or less a placeholder artwork. Anything that has some colored iconography or artwork on it seems to be the final artwork, but please be aware everything you're looking at is prototype component and might or might not look like the same in the final product. Certainly the helmet might get a slight improvement, so let's forget about the prototype of the very first edition or the base game. Let's focus here on this very new and fancy prototype components. Even though I already did a preview of the base game, I will walk you through some actual rounds of the game. I will include the Undercover expansion components here, but nevertheless I will explain you how the entire game feels like, so you don't have to go back to search for my old original video and then whatever come back here to see what Undercover will add to that. No, I will do one single video consisting of both the base game and the Undercover expansion, and as usual I will basically play 3-4 rounds of it in order to make you aware what you can expect of Good Cop, Bad Cop, including the Undercover expansion. Good Cop, Bad Cop is basically a team game where the side of the Kingpin fights the side of the agents. So pretty much like Bang, but here you are missing, let's say, a neutral third side, but nevertheless it's actually a very fun game. So you're playing this with 4 to 8 players, I believe, and the more the merrier, that's for sure. And I will explain you how you get to know on which side you are when I set up the game now. But what's really important are those integrity cards. They show either a Kingpin, an agent, a crook, or an honest cop, basically. Normally when you say if you have more honest cards than crook cards, you are on the honest side. If you have your agent card, then you are clearly the agent, so you are on the agent side, and the same counts for the Kingpin here. And the idea or the goal of the game for one side is to fight or to kill the mastermind of the other side. So if you're an agent, you want to kill the Kingpin, and both of those, the agent and the Kingpin, take 2 wounds in order to be out of the game. So when the first time the Kingpin gets shot, he gets one of those wound cards. The same is true for the agent. If the same player would get a second wound card, then the side is out, and whoever is on the other side wins the game. Simple as that. The very first thing that you have to do when you set up the game is to determine who is on which side. So you take the Kingpin, you take the agent, you put them face down on the table, then you add to this pile until you reach the number of players. So for a 5-player game, you will take the shuffled integrity cards and count it up to 5 basically. So these could be now honest and or crooked, or maybe only honest cards. Apparently you are basically shuffling them, and then you give this pile here a big shuffle as well, and you would then give one of those cards to each of the participating player. This way you really make sure that you don't have the Kingpin and the agent handed out to one single player. That's the idea of it, and later on you will then just add or shuffle the remaining integrity cards again, consisting of crooked and or honest cards, and add just 2 more to the other players. This is what you have to do if you have a card over, you just return it to the box. Of course, you are not supposed to look at that. Let's consider that those are the cards I have been given. In this case, it's clear I'm the crooked player. So I have 2 crooked, 1 honest card, which makes me crooked. So I want to take out the agent. The other players have been dealt those cards as well. And like I should have done, those cards are being placed on the table face down. Of course, all the players will be able to look at their own card, and they are also being allowed to place them in any order they like. But once those cards are placed, you are not allowed to change the order. There are some cards who will change that behavior, of course. So some of those equipment cards, but I come to that in a second. But normally you are not changing those cards because there is an action which allows you to check out one of those integrity cards. And yes, I'm playing against Bender, against Dr. Farnsworth, Leela, and Philip J. Fry. Isn't that nice? So they all have been dealt those 3 cards, and right now I don't have any clue who is who or who is on which side. This is what I need to find out before I start using those guns. And in a 5-player game there are 3 guns available. In a 4-player game these were normally only 2, so guns are limited in this game. But let's do things right. I will also put those cards face down, and again I will also not change them unless a card allows me to do that, or maybe another player has an equipment card who might be able to change that. So I know on which side I am. I have to find out who the other crooked players are and who are the honest player, because I can also take out the honest player, and if I take them out they are basically out of the game and won't be able to help their agent accordingly. The next thing to do is to shuffle those equipment cards, and then we will just deal out 1 card to each of the players, and your hand limit is normally also just 1. So this would be our card. Let's have a look at that. And here I drew the Disguise. This seems to be a prototype card because it has basically a black and white artwork on it. Place this card in front of any player other than yourself. That player may not be investigated. This is really awesome if I want to help the other player. So if I know for a fact that whatever Professor Farnsworth would be my kingpin, because maybe I investigated him and I found out, oh wow, he's the kingpin, for example, then I want to make sure that no other player will be able to reveal him as the kingpin. So I would play this card in front of him and he would now be disguised and no other player would be able to investigate him. Of course, there are other cards in the game who would allow to remove those cards, but for now Dr. Farnsworth would be uninvestigable. Of course, those cards basically you can be played at any time unless it's stated somewhere on the card that you have to play it as your action or on your turn. But normally what you can do is, for example, if I hear that Bender announces an investigation action and he targets Professor Farnsworth, in this case I could say, no, stop it, I will play the disguise card before you perform your action, and then he could no longer target Professor Farnsworth. In this case it would be allowed for Bender to either choose another target, so for example Leela, or could go for an entirely different action. This was basically the setup of the base game. Now let's have a look at the cover expansion here. And this is basically this stack of cards. There are also additional equipment cards that ship with the game, and this new Elite Investigator card, which explains you what you are allowed to do on your turn. Really handy. And the next thing is we would deal 1 of those cover cards to all of the players. Those cover cards are then being placed face up on one of their integrity cards. So you draw this card, whatever, you flip it face up. Here I would be the spy, so all the other players know I am the spy. They all know my special ability here. The spy for once allows me investigate any player. If that player is holding an equipment card, you may also view their equipment card. This can be pretty handy. So now I would choose to place this card either here, there or there, and this cover is really, or it's doing what it's supposed to do. It will cover my integrity. So no other player will be able to investigate this particular integrity card as long as my cover is being placed on that. So very, very neat little addition to the base game. And there are various other cover cards like the Looter or the Smuggler. The Looter is pretty cool because it increases your equipment hand limit to 2, or the Smuggler can allow you to reshuffle your integrity cards. Very, very neat and very chaotic special abilities that are being introduced with this expansion here. Nice. Let's assume I'm the starting player, so I will start with this Lead Investigator card here. And as I said, the Lead Investigator card clearly tells you what you are allowed to do during your turn. Basically, each round consists of 1 or 2 steps. There's a third step, which basically means pass the card to the next player, but these are the main steps or main phases of your turn. First of all, you choose exactly one of the following actions. So I could investigate, I could equip, so I would be allowed to draw an equipment card. And keep in mind, you have to consider your hand size limit of 1. I could use my cover ability. This is now new with this expansion here. So I could go for the Spy's ability here. This is an action. And this says if that player is holding an equipment card, I can also view this equipment card. So this is certainly really, really handy. I could arm, which means I take one of those guns and I have to immediately aim this gun at another player. And normally I'm not allowed to change that unless I reach phase 2 here. And last but not least, I would be allowed to shoot the gun if I hold a weapon and aim it at another player. And this player then has to reveal all his integrity cards. And yeah, if he's not the kingpin or the agent, this player is already out of the game. Once I've taken my action, there is the take aim. So in this second step, I would still be allowed to re-aim my gun, but keep in mind, I really do that before I take the shoot action at the start of my next turn. So if I'm aiming at Philip Fry and somehow I learn that he is not my opponent, I could not go for the shoot action, because then I would shoot my ally basically. This is something I don't want to do, so I would not do the shooting action here. Apparently I would have to do another action and then maybe take aim, whatever, towards Farnsworth. In this case, that's pretty easy peasy. I will go for my cover card action here, which says investigate any player. If that player is holding an equipment card, you may also view their equipment card. This is of course an awesome thing to do. Right now I don't have any clue, so I will start with Bender here. I'm not allowed to look under this integrity card because he has his cover on it. He is the hustler. He can trade his equipment card for any other equipment card, and then I might still be allowed to take the equip action. So if I don't like what I've whatever exchanged with the other player, I could still then re-equip with the draw deck here, which is a good thing. So in this case I can either go for this or that card, so let's just reveal one of those. So he is 1/3 honest. This card of course is only known to me. I'm encouraged to lie or tell the truth to the other players. That's totally up to me to tell the other players what I just saw, but of course I'm not allowed to show them. And because I was using the spy ability, I can still have a look on his equipment card. And here we have the inspection gloves, and those are pretty cool because I can now choose another player. They must either discard an equipment card, discard their cover, or reveal all of their face down integrity cards to the players, then return them to the table face down. This is really a very nasty thing to do, and normally I would wait until that player has played his equipment card, and then I would say, come on, now I play the inspection gloves, because then one of those choices is basically out. So in this case, this player could now only decide to discard his cover or to reveal all of their face down integrity card. Isn't that nice? And again, those cards are basically interrupt, so I can play those inspection gloves anytime during any player's turn. This was basically my turn. Theoretically would now take aim, but of course I'm not holding a gun, so we can bypass this step. So I will hand the starting or lead investigator card over to Bender, who would then be allowed to take his turn. One thing I should mention is that when you choose the equip or the arm action, you always have to reveal one of your face down integrity card for all the players. So you're losing your cover because you're using up your resources, and as many resources you're using, you're getting exposed. I think you get the idea. Sometimes you want other players to reveal your integrity card. So for example, the Kingpin could reveal an honest card to confuse the other players, or he could reveal the crook card to let the other crook players know, hey, at least I'm on your side, maybe you should shoot the other guy, something like that. But usually the very first thing that you are doing is to investigate. And here I already forgot one thing. Of course, this cover card goes to the card I just investigated, so this leaves the other players to investigate those two other cards here, but none of the other players will be able to check out here. So in Undercover, in this expansion, I'm really encouraged to lie, because it's not that easy for the other players to tell or to see if I told the truth, for example, because they cannot check out that card. So I could lie the hell out of that card here, which is really something I like a lot about games like this. Okay, I think Bender will also take an investigate action. He could come back to me, or could go to Farnsworth. Right now it doesn't really matter. So in this case he says, yeah, come on, let's show me your card here. So I will show him this card. So this is crooked. He knows that I'm crooked, at least 1/3 crooked. We will move the cover card to this investigated card, and so the other players will now be able to check out the other two. This was also already the turn of Bender, so we come over to Farnsworth, so he will be the lead investigator. Now he could also investigate, but he's not really happy about his equipment card here, so he will take an equipment action. So he will move his card back to the bottom of the deck. He will draw a new one, and therefore he's now forced to reveal one of his integrity card, and I think he will go with this card here. So all the other players say, okay, he's at least 1/3 honest. But keep in mind, he could still have two crook cards here, he could still have the Kingpin here. So right now it's not really clear, but he might also send a message to the other player. So once he could protect himself, that whatever, they are not shooting him, or he could give the other players a clear signal, hey, I'm on your side. But this was also already the turn of Leo Farnsworth. Of course, he would check out his equipment card. Maybe there is something on this equipment card that allows him to do something very funny. Why not have a look at it? And here we have the phone detonator, used when someone shoots you. If the shot does not cause anyone to win the game, choose any player other than yourself to also be shot. This would be an awesome card for the Kingpin or the agent, because if both of them know who is on which side, he could make sure that the other player, maybe if he would be the Kingpin, that the agent would also take a shot, so they would now be equal. So this is really an incredibly powerful card, but of course all the other players don't know what he has, and he might really wait until he gets shot. Really, really nice. Now it's Leela's turn, and she might think of using her transporter special ability. She's allowed to take any action. Before or after you take that action, move any player's cover to any of their integrity cards. And this is really a very mean thing, because she could now have Bender here move this cover to this card back here, for example, and wants to make sure what I have seen here, for example. In this case, I'm not the only player who has that knowledge, and I think this is what she will do. So she will move this maybe here to the middle pile, and she will also want to check out this card here. Okay, this is honest. She was hoping for something more clear, but at least we both know that Bender has at least one honest card. This was pretty much her turn, but of course we investigated here, so we have to move this this cover card back to the card we just investigated, again leaving the other players maybe behind and wondering what might be so special about this card over there. And because Fry is really wondering and he wants to know what's going on there, he just says, I will play the surveillance camera before it's actually his turn. Used immediately after a player is investigated, that player must turn the integrity card that was viewed face up So let's do that. So we basically did that before this card moved here. So we will put this card now face up. All the players see, hey, he's 1/3 an honest player. And because this cover can never lie on a face up integrity card, Bender now has to choose another card. And I think he will just move it back here to this integrity card. This was not the turn of Fry. He just played this card. This card will be discarded. And now it's the turn of Fry, and I think he's out of an equipment card. He would now announce he will take the equipment action. But now Bender, on the other hand, says, ha ha ha, not so fast. I will play now the inspection clothes on you. Choose a player, they must discard an equipment card. Right now he doesn't have an equipment card, so he cannot change or choose that option. So he could now decide to put or face up all of his integrity cards, and then he would be allowed to still put them face down again. Or he could get rid of his special cover card here. And I think, wow, that's really a tough move for him. So this is really mean. So I think in this case, poor Fry will decide to, get away of his loan shark, because he does not want to reveal his integrity as of now already. And now his normal turn would start, so he could now redecide to say, no, I think I will go for another action. But in this case, I think he still wants to have an equipment card, so he has to reveal one of his cards. Why not take this one here? And therefore he would be allowed to grab himself an equipment card. Now it's back to us, and I think once more we will go for the spy action here. So investigate any player. If that player is holding an equipment card, you may also view their equipment card. And right now I'm really curious who is behind Professor Farnsworth here. So I will have a look at this card here. So he has a second honest card. So unless he has not whatever the kingpin here, I have to assume right now that he would be an honest player. But of course all the other players do not know that. We will move the cover on this card, so, which really leaves us with this card open. So any other player could check out this card here, and this would really be interesting for us. But I'm still allowed to have a look at this card, and we already see that that would be the phone detonator. And I see, wow, that's a very strong card. But this already concludes my turn. Then it's Bender, and I think Bender really wants to go for an equipment card. It's really a good thing to have those equipment cards. They're extremely powerful and important in order to win this game. So he will reveal this card here. So all the other players are now, oh, come on, he can be on either side. You can't be serious. So he would be allowed to take an equipment card. So let's have a look at this. And this is a crazy, incredible, powerful card. Investigate another player. You may also turn one of your face up integrity cards face down. Wow, this is really so awesome. And he could theoretically use it right now, because he could check out the remaining card of Farnsworth. But of course, he hasn't seen the other cards. And I think right now he wants to stick to this card, because any other player could do something very mean about it. But I think normally would do that, so why not? I think let's take the action here, investigate another player. So he will have a look at this integrity card, and he sees, wow, okay, here we have the kingpin. Of course he can tell all the other players, hey, this guy is the kingpin, you have to believe me. Of course, this card will be put face down again. The other players will not see that right now, because he's just moved this card back to this integrity card here, the cover. And what's also important, he's allowed to put one of his integrity card face down. Normally all the players have seen that already, so it's not really a secret. But as more cards, integrity cards you have that are put face down, the longer you are allowed to keep your cover. So you could still move it back and forth. So this is really a very helpful thing if you have a good cover card that you don't want to lose, for example. Then it's back to Leo Farnsworth. I think he will just take the investigate action. And for now, he will check out this card here. Okay, that's honest, that's crooked. So right now, he does not really have a clue. He doesn't have a cover card, so we will not move this cover card here. He just lost that because of this mean surveillance camera equipment card. Then it's Leela. Leela doesn't really like her equipment cards, so I think she will reveal one of her integrity cards, showing an honest card here, so she would be allowed to take a new one here. Then the game would move to Fry, then to me, and last but not least back to Bender here. And because Bender just saw something which he found really interesting, he decides to go for the arm actions. So this means now he will still have to reveal one of his face down integrity cards, unless he's out of those, then you don't have to reveal, but you still are allowed to take that action. But usually if the other players know who you are being dead within seconds. So in this case he would take the gun and you immediately have to aim that gun, and in this case he decides to aim the gun towards Farnsworth here. So all the other players might know, okay, what's he up to? Wow, that's really crazy. The problem is he's not allowed to shoot now, because therefore he would have to take an action, and this was basically his action. But at the start of his next turn he might be still able to shoot him. Luckily, or not so luckily, I misinterpreted the bodyguard ability, so I was thinking that he might now redirect the gun, but of course this bodyguard only allows you to change the aiming for another player, not for yourself, which makes sense. So he really has to come up with something meaningful, unless he will get shot. So for once he could be whatever on the other side, or he could be the normal player, but he does not want to get shot here. So I think he will also take the arm action. So again he has to reveal his cards, his integrity card, and he will take the gun and will point it back towards Bender here. So this really seems to be a very interesting situation. This was pretty much his turn, then it would go over to Leela, to Fry, and then to us, and then it's back to Bender. Bender will say, I will shoot towards you, bang. So he has to reveal all of his cards here, so which leaves him with no face down integrity card. This also means he has to get rid of his cover card, so he's no longer allowed to use it. Now all the other players know, okay, he is now the Kingpin, so he's not out of the game. He just takes a wounded card, and now Professor Farnsworth will reveal his phone detonator here, used when someone shoots you. If this shot does not causes you anyone to win this game, choose any player other than yourself to also be shot. So I think he says, hey, you are being shot too. So he has to reveal this card, and all the other players say, wow, that's crazy. This is the agent, this is the Kingpin. This also means the agent takes another wounded card here as well. He has to give away this weapon card, and Farnsworth is still holding a gun in this case. So he is now next, and if no of the other players who's on his side will be able to take this gun away from Farnsworth, he will now declare, hey, I will shoot Bender, and then the Kingpin side has already won this game. Isn't that awesome? Both Leela and Fry, they have pretty cool card. He could revive a player who was eliminated, but of course this is not true for the Kingpin or the agent apparently, because this causes the game to end. Fry has the scalpel here, used when a player takes a wounded token. The wounded player may take an arm action, so he could now also allow Bender to take a weapon, but he says, no, I don't want to play this card. So you also know that he might be on the side of Fry. You know our card, so we have still the disguise card here. So also nothing we can do to help poor Bender here. So in this case, turn goes officially over to Farnsworth. Farnsworth says, hey, I will shoot you. So Bender would take his second wound card, but in this case, he is out of the game. And when the agent is out of the game, the other side has won. Isn't that awesome? Wow, what a great round. So let's check out who everybody was. So here we have Leela. She was clearly on the side of the agents. Philip has a second crook card, so he's crooked. And as you might remember, we were crooked too. So I'm perfectly happy with the outcome of the last two actions. Yeah, and this was pretty much a full game, you can say, of Good Cop, Bad Cop. I was really surprised, but the cards were really coming in favor to do a speedy run through of this whole game here. It's really a fun game. You have to play it with a lot of players. This is what we found out. You can play it with 4, which is fine, but of course, the more the merrier. Of course, it gets messy, it gets chaotic, but I think this is what this game is all about. Those cards here, some of those are extremely powerful. Some of those cards you may think, what should I do with that? Unless you come to a situation where you say, wow, that's the perfect card for this scenario here. So this is really, really great. I really love those kind of games. As I mentioned, this expansion is currently on Kickstarter, and as far as I understood, the shipping is free worldwide. So this is at least for the expansion. Not sure if you go for a pledge level that maybe includes the core components, but check out the campaign page. You will of course find a link in the description of this video, and I really hope that my little preview here gave you an understanding of how Good Cop Bad Cops actually feels. I really have to say I like it a lot. I like those messy games, and yeah, if you liked it, check out the campaign and maybe back it for yourself. Hope to see you soon in one of my next videos, and until then, bye bye.